Guys, listen up closely because what I'm about to share is going to completely flip the script on everything you've ever been told about romance, attraction, and what truly fulfills a woman. The average guy believes that love means doing the absolute most, bombarding her with texts, constantly proving his worth, chasing her down, over-explaining every little thing, and basically begging for her attention. They assume that if they just pour on enough attention, effort, and constant presence, she will eventually catch those feelings. But honestly, that's the exact moment they lose her completely. See, the second a guy gets desperate to be noticed, he stops being the man she found attractive in the first place. And here is the exact strategy that most men completely overlook. You need to disappear, not to play mind games and not to punish her, but to vanish from a place of neediness. Step away from the constant over-explaining. Drop the exhausting act of trying to force a connection to happen. Just take a step back and watch what happens when your silence speaks way louder than your insecurity ever could. That is the raw truth most guys are honestly too terrified to face. You don't satisfy her by suffocating her space. You don't move her heart by constantly trying to convince her of your worth. And you definitely don't build deeper attraction by standing there pouring your soul out every 5 minutes, practically begging to know if you're good enough. A woman never feels truly safe with a guy who is always leaning on her for validation. Instead, she feels secure with a man who is completely anchored in his own skin. A guy whose vibe is totally calm. A man whose energy is completely clean. Someone who doesn't feel the need to chase because his life is already moving in a clear direction. That type of man never clings. He doesn't panic. He doesn't start shaking every single time her mood shifts. He stays totally centered. He stays completely grounded. He remains an absolute threat to mediocrity. And that is exactly why stepping back changes the entire game. Because when you disappear the right way, you actually create the space needed for the truth to come out. You stop interrupting the natural flow of connection with your own fears. You stop drowning the moment in your own anxiety. You stop trying to hold on to her so tightly that you end up crushing the very feeling you're trying to protect. When you finally step away from the chaos, the noise, and the emotional begging, something incredibly powerful takes place. She finally gets a chance to actually feel your absence. She finally gets to measure your true value without you constantly advertising it to her. She finally gets to experience the massive difference between a man who is simply available and a man who is entirely dependent. There is undeniable power in being present, absolutely, but there is just as much power in practicing restraint. There is power in choosing not to react to every little thing. There is power in not answering every single disappointment with a massive paragraph of text. There is power in refusing to abandon yourself just because you're terrified that someone else might walk away. Most guys think true strength is proving how much misery they can endure for the sake of love. Real strength is actually refusing to betray your own peace of mind just to keep someone else entertained. Real strength is having the confidence to say, I care about you, but I will not beg. I feel things deeply, but I will never chase someone who refuses to choose me. I can love you with everything I have, but I will not lose my identity trying to be enough for someone who can't recognize a good thing when it's standing right in front of them. And let me take you even deeper into this. Truly satisfying her goes way beyond just the physical stuff. Most guys reduce the whole thing to performance, technique, timing, and seduction, which is all just surface-level nonsense with zero soul. What actually fulfills a woman at the absolute deepest level is emotional certainty. It's the undeniable feeling that the man standing in front of her is completely real, that his energy isn't unstable, that his confidence isn't just a cheap act, and that his attention is a genuine gift, not a heavy leash. It's knowing that when he speaks, his words carry real weight. That when he touches her, his hands move with pure intention. That when he steps away, it's not because he's playing childish mind games, but because he possesses discipline, high standards, a purpose, and deep self-respect. That is exactly what the vast majority of men miss out on. They want to be desired so badly that they completely ruin their own posture. They hand over all their emotional power the very second they feel a little bit of chemistry. They immediately drop their routines, their mission, their health, their ambitions, and their clarity just to constantly orbit around one single person. And then, Down the line, they wonder why the spark suddenly died out. It dies because the mystery completely vanishes when a man has absolutely nothing left going on outside of the relationship. Attraction simply cannot breathe in an atmosphere of desperation. Desire never blooms under intense pressure. And love can never grow in a place where your identity has completely vanished. So when I tell you to disappear, I'm not instructing you to become cold and heartless. I am telling you to become absolutely solid. Disappear from the version of yourself that panics, and vanish from the habits that make you incredibly easy to disrespect. Vanish from the urge to break the quiet just because a silent moment makes you feel uncomfortable. Vanish from the illusion that romance is earned by stretching yourself so thin until you have absolutely nothing left to give. The guy she actually remembers, the one she truly feels, and the one she absolutely cannot get out of her head is never the one who tried the absolute hardest to be everywhere at once. It's the man who knew exactly when to pull back, when to protect his own energy, and when to choose self-respect over pointless drama. Because stepping away, when it's backed up by actual substance, creates a massive impact. If your presence carries no weight, then your absence won't have any meaning. That is exactly why walking away only works when you are busy building something real. You can't just vanish into laziness. You can't retreat into bitterness and grudge holding. And you definitely can't call it masculine power when it's actually just emotional avoidance. No, you disappear straight into discipline, into your ultimate purpose, into the gym when your mindset feels weak, and into your daily work when your spirit needs sharpening. You dive deep into self-reflection, learning, growth, and complete self-mastery. You disappear into turning yourself into the kind of man whose peace of mind is incredibly expensive. The kind of guy whose time is entirely intentional. The type of man who never has to announce his worth to the world because his lifestyle broadcasts it clearly without a single word. And the moment you become that guy, everything shifts completely. The way you talk changes. Your physical posture changes. Even the look in your eyes changes. You stop hunting for quick reactions and start creating a lasting impact. You stop stressing over questions like, how do I keep her interested? And you start demanding of yourself, am I living my life in a way that commands respect? For one, you completely stop obsessing over whether or not she's missing you because your entire focus is now purely on becoming completely unforgettable. That is the ultimate difference right there. Weak men constantly chase attention, while strong men build a magnetic presence. Weak men are terrified of distance, but strong men know that distance reveals exactly what's real. So if she happens to pull away, do not fall apart. If the vibe changes, do not start auditioning harder for her approval. If the connection starts to feel shaky, do not throw your entire soul at the issue trying to fix it. Just step back. Take a breath. Recenter yourself. Let life expose the things that words never could. Let the quiet show you who is actually willing to reach out. Let that space prove to you what is genuine. And while that space does its thing, you make sure you do yours. Keep evolving, refining your life, rebuilding your foundation, and becoming better. Guys, the single biggest mistake you can ever make in romance is believing that satisfaction comes from giving someone constant access to you. It doesn't. It comes from depth, from absolute emotional control, from a clear purpose, and from understanding that the most magnetic man in any room is rarely the loudest, rarely the most desperate, and rarely the one trying to prove his worth every single second. He is the man who knows exactly who he is, even when nobody is clapping for him. He is the guy who can walk right away from mixed signals and confusion and still sleep peacefully at night. He is the one who truly gets that love is supposed to add value to your life, not become an excuse for completely losing control of it. So disappear. Step away from your insecurities. Vanish from the desperate over pursuit. Disappear from the everyday habits that make you totally ordinary and just watch what happens next. Watch how your value immediately skyrockets the exact moment your desperation drops to zero. Watch how your words carry so much more weight when you start speaking less. Watch how your overall presence becomes incredibly powerful when it's no longer poisoned by fear. Watch how differently the world responds to you when you completely stop begging to be chosen and you start carrying yourself like a man who has already chosen himself. That is the ultimate strategy. That is the massive shift, and that is the exact power most men completely miss out on. You aren't disappearing from love itself. You are disappearing from your own weakness. And when you finally make that move, you don't just transform the relationship, you completely change the man looking back at you in the mirror.